Hello, young man. How are you?
I recognise him. It's the lad who sells newspapers, who is always calling outside our windows at Baker Street, early in the morning.
Hello, Mr. Holmes. It's a treat to see you again. What can I do?
Would you happen to know an old sailor who goes by the name of the Captain? A poor man who hits the bottle a bit hard.
Of course, Mr. Holmes. He's there at the end of the street. Round to the left he is. But be careful. He can be a tough customer, that one.
Very good, my young man. The doctor will give you a little something. Watson?
Huh? I say, Holmes?
Is he always such a skinflint with you, Mr. Holmes? Well, thanks to you, Mr. Holmes. Anytime you need me.
If, in order to listen to us, this man imposes as condition that we find his pet cockroach, there will be another murder in Whitechapel today, Watson. Yours.
Ah. He is in a critical state, Holmes. He has barely a month left.
Is there a way, dear doctor, to ensure that this last month passes in silence?
Really, Holmes, sometimes you... Oh, really? I will make note of some medicine to get immediately that will relieve his pain.
Very well. I will locate an apothecary or a clinic. This building is a clinic.
Good day, sir. Dr. Gibbons. You aren't from around these parts?
Indeed, Doctor. It is for someone from your neighbourhood that I am here, though. His doctor asked that I acquire some medicine on his behalf. I have the note here.
Dr. Watson? Not from round here neither. This medication is quite dear. Certain documents are necessary to obtain them for free.
I don't have it. You'll have to accept my spare change. Will it be enough?
Enough to relieve your patient for a month. Would you like me to make this prescription available after that time?
According to Dr. Watson, that won't be necessary.
The possibility of a recovery?
A definitive one, yes.
There, sir.
Thank you. It's rather quiet here.
An unusual chain of events. The majority of the people hereabouts went out last night to see the great fire at the warehouse. The patients that I was minding and my staff were no exception. The former were dramatically healed, and the latter ended up sick. And with the murder last night, most of the people who weren't working wandered over to the scene of the crime. Their little aches and pains will wait until tonight or tomorrow.
A squalid murder, it would seem.
Just like what this area has become.
My thanks, Doctor.
Not at all.
Here is the medication, Watson. Is our man movable?
He should be able to stand in a few minutes and will no longer be suffering from his cough before long.
Consider the affair resolved. Accompany him to his niece's while I return to the boarding house, and then join me at the police station. Let's return to the boarding house. I have good news for you, Mr. Finlay. We have sent the captain to stay with a relative, and he shouldn't bother you for a while.
I also have some good news. I have your bag.
Thank you. I bid you good day.
Oh, it was nothing. Tell me, one of my wife's friends lost...
Another day, Finlay. Another day. Let's go to the police station.
So, what news do you have, Mr. Holmes?
Are you sure it's the bag that you lost?
Yes, but someone attempted to force it open. They didn't succeed, but now the lock is stuck. Perhaps you could...
Let's see. All done.
A big thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Think nothing of it, my friend. So, the reports.
Why don't you wait till the inspectors get back? You would certainly learn more.
If I wanted to meet the inspectors, I would have done so. So, give me the preliminary reports, and above all, do not mention my visit to anyone. Is that clear?
Sure, if that's what you want. Here are the reports.
Thank you.
Have you obtained the preliminary reports?
Yes, we'll read them on the go. Let's to the scene of the crime at Bucks Row, Watson.
But what are all these people doing here, Holmes?
Apparently, they came to see the scene of the crime.
What about us? Aren't we going to see it?
We will return this evening, Watson. The circumstances should be ideal for carrying out our little experiments. Well, Watson, we are at the scene of the Polly Nichols murder. Imagine the victim lying at the spot where she was found and try to discern all of the clues we can. Watson, you are a writer. I am therefore entrusting you with our deduction board. It will help us to establish certain facts.
Understood, Holmes.
No signs of blood. There is a black bonnet near the left hand. The body was lying on its back, legs straight and slightly apart. The skirt had been lifted up to the middle of the body. The left hand was touching the barn door. The body was still warm. Let's reread the preliminary report for the details on the wounds inflicted upon this poor woman. Let's look at this poor woman more closely. A small pool of blood, 6 inches in diameter. The throat was slit from left to right. There are 2 incisions. There is a bruise at the level of the right maxilla. The tongue is swollen. There is a bruise on the left cheek. No marks on the ground. The ground is muddy.
This spot is deserted, Holmes. The prostitutes only come here to exercise.
There is only one streetlight lit on this street, Watson, and this spot is particularly poorly lit. Well, Watson, we have found all of the possible clues, I think. We will now attempt to recreate the scene of the murder. Come closer, Watson. I have to make you up.
You are joking, Holmes? I feel ridiculous, Holmes.
Now, Watson, come and stand here in front of me. You shall play the role of the poor woman and I shall play that of the murderer. Let's try to reconstruct the facts to ensure the final result corresponds indisputably to the way that Polly Nichols was killed. The murderer had enough room to inflict the wounds to the neck, and these wounds suggest the left hand was used. This position is unlikely. This position is unlikely. Yes, it's quite possible the events occurred like this. My dear Watson, now that we have found all of our clues, nothing remains but to subject them to our most likely hypotheses in order to deduce the facts. The victim was most probably dead before being laid down. Once the heart stopped, gravity drained the body slowly, not in a heavy spurt that would have stained half the street.
Thank you, Holmes. I understand why you told me not to change clothes. Do you realize that our behavior didn't alarm anyone?
The victim's ordeal was even more discreet. By acting in silence, we have confirmed something. The crime definitely took place here. The victim and her murderer were able to come here without making any noise, and afterwards the murder took place without the slightest cry being uttered. Come, Watson, let's go home. We have spent far too long in this sinister alley. And so, my dear Watson, the day and night which we passed in Whitechapel were enlightening, weren't they?
An adventure that I most certainly will never relate, to be in the skin of that poor woman, I prefer not to speak of it further. But have we really learned anything about the murderer? Obviously a man, given the necessary strength.
We have little to go on, at least no more than the police, but in my opinion Inspector Aberline has a trick or two up his sleeve. No, I want to talk about the facts and what we can draw from them. We know where the crime was committed and under what conditions. I would like to ask you about the possible motives for the crime. According to you, Watson, what could have pushed the murderer to act in such a way? Well, we are still missing certain